Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Alan, and I want to start you off with a question. What is financial literacy? Financial literacy is understanding budgeting, saving, and investments, how we properly maximize our income. Now, I want to start you off with some statistics from Fidelity. In a 2025 study, 66% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, while only about half of Americans have at least $1,000 in their savings accounts. What this means is that the average American is running on a budget. And you might be asking yourself, how do I set a budget? What does that even look like? Is it just simply not spending as much as I normally would? And that might be correct, but there's a general rule of thumb we would be following here. In order to create a budget, we're looking at the 50-30-20 rule. 50% needs, 30% wants, 20% savings, and or debt repayment. Now, understanding our wants versus our needs is very important to a budget. You need food, water, transportation, shelter, but you don't need or you would want the luxury versions of those, spending extra on food, spending extra on utilities, X, Y, and Z. And while that's nice and all to treat yourself, remember that our budgets are stringent and they're very, very, very much based on how we allocate our resources. Now, after our 50-30, let's say you have an overage. Congratulations. I properly tracked my expenses. I properly invested my income in certain areas that I need the most versus what I don't want, or versus my wants. And now I have an overage. Great. A lot of people are like, they get really excited when they see this and it's just like, I'm going to go spend money. I'm going to go have fun. I'm going to spend that extra money. Now, remember how I mentioned that only about half of Americans have at least $1,000 in their savings accounts? This is exactly why. We get excited when we see that overage, and we forget that what about our emergency expenses? What about our rainy day funds? Now, a rainy day fund is not just mattress money or the piggy bank. You can also use a savings account. Now, going from 50-20-30 in the current, we're moving on to our future wealth. So, future wealth management in the form of a savings account is very important. You can put in as little as you want or as much as you want. But by putting your money in a savings account, it allows your money to make money by interest yields. So now, with compound interest and all that good stuff, now your money is making money for you. Now, on top of that, let's say you want to maybe borrow, or maybe you are getting audited for whatever reason. That mattress money, that piggy bank money is not helping your assets. So when you're looking for approvals on certain purchases, that mattress money is not showing up. But if you have it in the savings account, it will. And financial institutions, you have a larger chance of being approved for whatever major purchase you're trying to get when you get credit checked. Now, let's say you have an overage on all of that. Your 50-30-20 is perfect. Your savings account is perfect. Now I have more money to play with. What do you do with that? You can do whatever you want. You can invest more in your wants, buy something nice, more into your needs, more into your debt repayment, or more into your savings. Well, how do we maximize our income? How do we let our money make us even more money than besides our interest yields? We start an investment portfolio. We start with maybe digital currency, properties, rentals, or you get into stocks. Stocks are the very first option a lot of people like to take. And what that means is that investment, money-wise, can help us get money back, which is great. That's how we maximize our income. But remember, it's a risk tolerance system, risk versus reward. You don't want to put in more than what you're willing to lose. And while it might be very challenging for some, numbers are numbers. But remember that as the world revolves, so does our money. You want to make sure that the way we allocate our resources now helps us in our future. Understanding our budgets, understanding our savings, and understanding our reinvestments is extremely important to our financial well-being. Now, I want to close off by saying we're all starting our financial journey here, coming to this university. Some of us are working to pay for our tuition. Some of us are borrowing money to pay for our tuition. But regardless of our backgrounds, regardless of our socioeconomic status, one thing that remains the same is money. And how we use that money is paramount to our future. I like to talk about this because sometimes I wish I knew this earlier on because I've made some pretty dumb purchases. And while I have covered those purchases and haven't let them negatively affect me financial wise, I would have liked to utilize my 50-20-30 a bit more and be a bit more comfortable with my finances at the time. But again, we're all in this together, and I really hope you enjoyed and learned something new about your finances. And I hope by implementing these new tactics, it's able to set the pathway to financial success. Thank you very much for your time.